when singing along to something, I was going to ask you what people do to hold their ear or their finger in order to get the sound of their voice to come close to themselves.
So actually the best way to do it is not to put anything in the ear, but to cup the ear.
Sound check.
So you actually bring the outside of your ears, just cup them forward. So I get in behind the ear and cup it forward.
Cup it forward, like that.
And that's
so
actually...
why are people doing that? You see people doing this. Are they
the problem with when you know, you see them putting them, you know, and yes, that does increase the volume, but what it does is it favours low end.
Oh.
So if you do that, have a listen to what happens to your voice. Block both ears. Block both ears and just talk. Can you hear how it actually, like, emphasises low end?
Cuts out the high frequencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of your own voice.
From what I can hear of myself.
Because...
Definitely. Anyway.
Because what you're hearing then is predominantly bone conduction and some audio leakage up through your eustachian tube. But that's because you're closing off the ear, right? Whereas if you cup the ear, you maintain the internals, like that's not changing, but you're not creating a dominant effect of that low, which would then lead you to manipulate the tonal shaping.
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
And so when we cup our ear like so, we're actually going to get a rounder sound. Now, I say all that acknowledging that there are times when you're on stage, for example, and you actually, if you do that, you're going to get everything is going to be louder. So sometimes it can be helpful to isolate the internal of what you hear, and it allows for you to pitch better in one sense because you can zone in on your own voice.
Yeah.
But you still have to be careful in taking into account how that could influence your tonal shaping.
Does a in-ear monitor?
So in-ear monitors are going to be better because in-ear monitors are feeding everything into the ear as long as you can get the right mix, which can be challenging with in-ear monitors. But in-ear monitors is going to balance everything because it is still giving you an external feed, the microphone feed of your own voice into the ear. It's not just what you're hearing internally.
Is there an intermediate similar to that with regards to something between using your hand and using, I guess it doesn't get better than in-ear monitors?
Look,
is there a...
It doesn't get better than quality in-ear monitors, and it has to be said there are varying levels of quality of in-ear monitoring. And in-ear monitoring really at its best is accompanied by the ability of the singer, in this case the singer, to be able to manage their levels through often just a little mixing console of some description. Sometimes there's no sound man. Sometimes the band is actually doing all the sound on stage by themselves. Then the next step is to have a sound guy who is mixing the front of house mix, because often the musicians are standing behind the line of sight of front of house mix, and so you need a sound man out in front of that. The next step is to have a monitor mix engineer, and they're often off to the side of the stage, and they're able to manage and mix the monitor levels, the mix of the levels on stage. And that's different to the guy out the front who's doing the front of house mix. If the group's not using in-ears, so they're just using floor monitors, then that sound guy, the guy doing the side house, you know, the monitor mix, is able to walk around and hear what you're hearing, because he can stand next to you and go, oh yeah, I can hear you need a little bit more or a little bit less or whatever, and it's easy for him to manage that. But the moment you go to in-ear monitoring, he can't hear what you're hearing. And so it can be really challenging if the instrumentalist, the musician, the singer do not have direct capacity to manage their own balance, you know, and mix, then it can be really hard to communicate to the floor monitor, the monitor mix engineer, what you want.
It's like another language.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of, communication,
yeah.
You're really struggling to make what you understand and experience known to someone else so that they can do what you want them to do.
And part of the art is learning to talk engineer, sound engineer. You got to kind of learn their lingo so that you can communicate clearly and quickly what you want. To answer your other question, for the most part, a simple cupping of the ear. If you need to, putting the finger in, and then if you've got the budget, in-ear monitoring.
Yeah. This is free.
This is free.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I mean, because I don't have the best of hearing, in part because of my years of touring and being in, very loud sound checks, etc. I will be in a loud space listening, and I just bring my hand up, and that generally allows me to really zone in on the person's voice in a loud audio landscape, and away I go.